Campo, nice of you to talk to us. Is now the time, 2 years out from a World Cup, where Australia need to start turning results into wins?
It's very hard 2 years out. Ewan McKenzie, I think his job is really trying to get Australia to start winning. I think that's his priority. I don't think he's got the World Cup in mind at all. And really a World Cup is a 4-year plan, it's not a 2-year. So it's very hard to be thrown in after the Lions series. You know, I think that if you look at these players now, they're really the same players that Robbie Dean's had. So there's no new names. There's probably one or two. Folau we bought from Rugby League or Aussie Rules. But the rest, everyone seems to know who they are. So you're not going to get anything different. And I think that's our problem. If you look at New Zealand, they'll pick a player out of the Super Rugby. You've played one test and he looks absolutely fantastic. We will pick guys who sometimes shouldn't be in the team, but we've got no one else. So we are behind the 8 ball.
Will Ewan McKenzie be craving a bit of consistency in terms of his starting 15?
Well, I think one of our major problems is the forwards, and I think that we need a world-class number 8. That's vital in a big game. You've got to need 8, 9, 10 to have a combination. You need those guys with the vision. I understand what Ewan's trying. I played with Ewan in the World Cup '91. I played him at Randwick. You know, I'm supportive of his, but unfortunately, he hasn't got the player base to pick from. And unfortunately, we've lost our way. And that's what Ewan's trying to install now, is the passion, the pride, and why do you wear the jersey? In Australia's like, you've got opportunities, you know, but we've got to get that culture back.
Another player's potentially going to be a bit more consistent in the starting lineup, Christian Leali'ifano. How important is it that he's fit?
Look, if you look at about Australian rugby, he doesn't really fit into a backline where he's not a playmaker. If you look at the history of Australian rugby, you've always had 10 and 12 playmakers. To me, you know, for Australia, we need to entertain the crowd because of rugby league, Aussie Rules and soccer or football. We got more sports, football codes, so we have to entertain to get the people to come to us. And I think it showed that he's a great goal kicker, but he's not a playmaker, he's not a threat. Our backline used to be, in the old days, has been Far Jones, Ella, Liner, Slack, Campese, Moon, Gould. If you haven't got players to threaten the opposition, what have we got? So at the moment we've got Genny, a great player, you've got Cooper, a great player, but then you've got the other guys who are very up and down, you know, and we need those guys to understand the flair. You know, you've got Folau, who's a great player, but I think he should be at 13 next year, because when you get the ball at 13, you're going to attract attention and there's space to move. Put it back to fullback, that's where he started. Mogg, who's a great young fullback, put him on the wing because he's flair. So therefore, all of a sudden, you've got 3 or 4 players who are going to keep the opposition guessing what's happening. It's all about defence, and the more dangerous players you got, the more stress in the defence.
Looking at the pack now, James Horwell put in a very passionate display over the summer. Is he, do you think, a decent replacement in the long term for Nathan Sharp?
Everything starts in front. If you can't dominate in front, the backs go backwards. James has been a great player, he's very passionate, but you know, they just, for some reason, they just don't seem to have the authority. If you look at a guy like Nick Farr-Jones, John Eales, you know, the players respected. But when you're in and out of the team all the time, it's very hard to get respect when you're playing South Africa, New Zealand, week in, week out, you know. It's very difficult. So, you know, you're playing the enemy, and the Poms are the enemy. So you've got to respect them. Like, when you go out there, just belt them. That's respect. And you play for 80 minutes. And the reason is you're playing for Australia against the English, and that's the enemy.
Are there any of the Poms that the Aussies will see as a particular threat?
I just think that the English are under a bit of pressure because the last game this team played together was in the Six Nations against Wales. They haven't played since, where Australia's played New Zealand, South Africa, New Zealand, South Africa in the last 6 weeks, and England haven't played since when? March.
Score prediction then?
I think Australia's going to win.
Score?
I think Australia by 10 points. It could be 10, it could be 1. I don't really care as long as we win.
He said exactly the same thing.
They're England.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. No worries.